Genesis 7:5. And Noah did everything that Jehovah had commanded him. Once again means it happened in this way. Happened in this way. See Genesis 7:22, which twice says that Noah did. This verse says it only once. And Genesis 6:22 uses the name God, where this verse uses Jehovah. The reason is that the passage there dealt with matters of the intellect, while this one deals with matters of the will. Matters of intellect regard matters of will as different and separate from themselves, but matters of will view matters of intellect. Matters of intellect. Matters of intellect as united to themselves or as being one with themselves. The ability to understand, you see, arises from the will. This is why the previous chapter uses the word did twice, where the present one uses it just once, and why the previous chapter uses the name God, where the present one uses Jehovah. Genesis 7:6. And Noah was a son of 600 years when the flood of water took place on the earth. Noah, as a son of 600 years, symbolizes the first stage of their trials. The flood of water on the earth symbolizes the onset of trial. Earlier sections talked about the truth in the intellect with which the Lord supplied members of the Noah church before they could regenerate, and about the good in the will that the Lord also gave them. Because the text deals with both, it seems to repeat itself. The theme here, though, is the trials those people underwent, and at this point it is the first stage the first stage, and so the onset is this
Onset.
onset
Onset.
onset. It's like manifestation. Onset. Commencement. Commencement, beginning, commencement, onset. It's like beginning. The onset of trial. As anyone can see, redundancy. What is this?
Redundancy.
Redundancy. Excess, redundancy. As anyone can see, redundancy enters in once again. The current verse says that Noah was a son of 600 years when the flood took place on the earth. While verse 11 says it happened in the 600th year of his life, in the second month, on the 17th day. Again, verse 7 says that Noah entered the ark with his sons and the wives, while verse 13 below says the same, and verses 8 and 9 says that the animals entered to Noah in the ark. While verses 14, 15, and 16 say the same thing as well. Verses 16. Let's see, maybe. Verses 16 say the same thing as well. So the present chapter clearly engages in the same kind of repetition of earlier material. 16. Genesis 6, 13, 7. 7. 7, 1, 5. Again, Again, verse 7 says that Noah entered the ark. And 16 said the same thing as well. So the present chapter clearly engages in the same kind. 9. 7, 9. There went in two and two to Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days. 16. And they that went in male and female, of all flesh, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. So the present chapter clearly engages in the same kind of repetition of earlier material. No one who sticks to the literal meaning alone can see any other possibility beyond the fact that some narrative element is being repeated in this way. Here as elsewhere, however, there is not a single syllable like word syllable that is extraneous or frivolous.
Extraneous.
Extraneous, like foreign, alien. Extraneous or frivolous.
Frivolous.
Frivolous. Not serious. Frivolous. Extraneous. Extraneous or frivolous.
Extraneous.
Extraneous or frivolous.
Frivolous.
Frivolous. Frivolous.
Frivolous. What is that?
Frivolous, like not serious.
Not serious, got you. Not serious.
Extraneous or
Extraneous.
frivolous. Because it is the Lord's word, so repetition never occurs unless it symbolizes something additional.
Where are you
At this
from?
point, I don't say it.
Oh, so you're from Russia?
Actually, I know Russian language, but I don't say where I'm from. I don't like to talk about myself.
Uh-huh.
Do you know Russian too? Mm,
Nah.
mm. I'm using Russian translator, but I translate from synonyms. And I read here something additional. At this point, as before, it means that there is a first testing, which is a testing of our intellectual side, and then a testing of our motives.
Excuse me. Can I interrupt you? Just,
Yeah,
I know you don't really like to talk about yourself, but can you tell me, are you older than 30 years old? Older or not?
actually, I cannot say about my early life because I'm just reading this book and I learn English from this book.
No, you know
I
what I'm asking, because I really wonder if you're older than 30. Like, maybe that's the reason why you just. You know, a lot of times I think I met you here in this VC, just you reading the books. Maybe not every day, but so regularly, I think. But that is, how to say, maybe because of your age, you just don't wanna, like, not don't wanna. I think maybe even physically, it's impossible to improve the skill of pronunciation. I mean, like to transform it from the form which is you had been using for, like used to, okay, and this form just to transform it to another one, like to I don't know, like maybe I don't know, Estonian accent or maybe European one or maybe American one. Maybe that's the reason, because of your age or maybe anything else. So only because of that I asked. Okay? Don't want to be offensive. Just okay. Please, sorry
yeah,
for this that I
You're
said.
right.
If
You're
you
right.
was offended, sorry for that. But I was wonder. Thank you.
actually, I don't represent myself. I'm just learning English from this book, and I try to memorize words from this application I use. Actually,
Okay. Okay.
uh,
Okay. Okay. That's not about. Okay.
if you
Not
want to
about.
read too, you can read too. Next section after me.
Oh, not really. Just maybe
Mhm.
next time I will join the room when there is nobody will be here, and will read my book that I have to read. Yeah, maybe next time. Not today, I think. Something to
Mhm.
do. Yeah, good. Go on, man. Sorry
Mhm.
for interrupting you.
The two kinds of trial follow each other in the person who is regenerating. It is one thing, after all, to face a challenge to our intellect, and quite another to face one to our motives. A challenge to the workings of our intellect is slight. Workings of our intellect is slight. What does it mean? Slight.
Slight.
It's like small, least.
Slight.
Slight. A challenge to the workings of our will is serious. The reason for the weakness of a challenge to the workings of our intellect, or in other words, to the falsities we adopt, is that our senses lie to us, and the lies they tell us are such that they inevitably slip past our guard. In consequence, they are easy to dispel. Take those who restrict themselves to the literal meaning of the word, where it speaks in terms they can grasp and so speaks according to their sensory illusions. If such people maintain a simple belief in those passages because it is the Lord's word, then even if they are immersed in deceptive appearances, they readily allow themselves to learn better. One who believes that the Lord is angry with the ungodly, punishes them, and does evil to them, for example, easily learns how the case really stands, since the fallacy came from the literal meaning. Then to some people in all simplicity believe that they can do good on their own and that in the next life they will receive a reward from the Lord if they are intrinsically good. These too readily learn that the good they do comes from the Lord and that the Lord rewards them freely out of mercy. When people like these find the ideas of their intellect, fallacies like these tested, the trial is inevitably a light one. It is also their first trial and hardly even seems to be a test. That is the kind of trial under discussion here. The case is different with another group of people. These are individuals who do not believe the word in simplicity of heart. On the contrary, they confirm themselves in illusions and falsities because these desires. As a result, they heap up a large number of compelling rationalizations based on self-interest and on the facts they know, and then they use the word to bolster their arguments.
Bolster.
Bolster. It's like strengthen, support, and bolster their arguments. So they stamp this way of thinking on their minds and convince themselves that falsity is truth. To describe no, or in other words, the people of this new church, they were the kind who had an complicated belief in the things they had received from the earliest church. These were the doctrinal tenets. Tenets.
Tenets.
It's like principle. Tenets that the people called Enoch had collected and organized into a kind of systematic theology. Their character was entirely different from that of the pre-flood people who died in the flood and who were called the Nephilim. These were the people who had merged the teachings of faith with their foul desires and so had seized on horrendous on horrendous delusions that they would not back away from, no matter how hard others try to teach them and to show them the falsity of their notions. People with the same two types of mentality or personality exist today too. The former can regenerate easily, the latter only with difficulty. The symbolism of Noah, a son of 600 years, as the first stage of their trials can be seen from this. From here all the way to Eber, in chapter 11, the numbers, the ages in years, and the names have a purely symbolic meaning, just as the ages and names of everyone in chapter 5 did. The symbolism here of 600 years as the first stage of trial can be seen from the number of major factors, 10 and 6, which are multiplied twice. In a larger or smaller number is produced by the use of the same factors. The symbolism doesn't change. The number 10 has already been shown at Genesis 6:3 to symbolize remaining traces. The symbolism here of 6 as hard work and combat can be seen from many places in the world. The case is this: preceding verses have discussed our preparation for struggle, which involves receiving from the Lord a supply of truth in the intellect and the goodness in the will. This truth and good are in the form of remaining traces which are not brought to our consciousness until we are regenerating. If the trials we go through are a means to regeneration for us, the remnant we possess is for the use of the angels who attend us. From the remnant, they draw out those resources that they can employ. employ. What is this?
employ,
Employ, apply, use. Can employ in defending us against evil spirits who attack us by stirring up the falsity in us. Mhm. The symbolism of the number 10 as the remnant and of 6 as combat as there is reason for the references to 600 years in which the numbers 10 and 6 predominate, symbolizing a time of trial. The particular symbolism of 6 as combat or conflict is established by the first chapter of Genesis, which specifies 6 days for a birth before a person turns heavily. During those 6 days, the combat never lets up. Combat like battle. Mhm. Yeah, fighting battle. The combat never lets up, but on the 7th day comes rest. This is the source of the 6 days of labor, and the 7th of Sabbath, symbolizing rest. For the same reason, a Hebrew slave was to serve for 6 years and go free in the 7th. For the same reason, they were to sow the land and gather its produce for 6 years, but to leave it fallow. To leave it fallow. What is this? Fallow.
fallow,
Fallow. It's like uncultivated. Mhm. To leave it fallow. To leave it fallow in the 7th, and the same for a vineyard. And for the same reason, the 7th year was to be an absolute Sabbath for the land, or Sabbath to Jehovah, because 6 symbolizes labor and conflict. It also symbolizes the dispersing of falsity. In Ezekiel, here 6 men were coming by way of the upper gate, which faces north, and each had a weapon for dispersing people in his hand. And in the same author's prophecy against God, and I will make you turn back and will destroy a sixth of you and bring you up from the flanks of the north. Flanks.
flanks,
It's like side flanks of the north. In these verses, 6 and destroying a 6 stands for dispersing something. The north stands for falsity, and Gog stands for those who ring dogma. What is ring?
ring,
Like twist, break. We ring dogma from the most superficial matters and use it to destroy inner worship from Job. In 6 periods of distress, he will liberate you, and in the 7th, even will not touch you. Here 6 stands for spiritual battles. In some of the other occurrences of 6 in the word, it does not symbolize hard work, battles, or the dispersing of falsity. Instead, it symbolizes the holy quality of faith because it is drawing a connection with 12, which symbolizes faith, and all properties of faith taken together, and with 3, which symbolizes holiness. From those numbers comes this additional positive meaning of 6. One example occurs in Ezekiel 45, where it says that the reed a man was using to measure Israel's holy city was 6 cubits. There are all other instances as well. The reason the positive meaning develops out of those numbers is that spiritual struggles have the holy quality of faith in them. Then too, the 6 days of labor and combat look to the 7th holiday. Noah is called the son of 600 years here because the sun symbolizes truth in the intellect, as already demonstrated. But verse 11 below does not call him a son because that passage deals with that church's struggles in respect to the workings of its will. The symbolism of the flood of water on the earth as the onset of trial follows from the fact that the present subject is struggles in respect to intellectual issues, struggles that come first and are relatively slight, as explained. For this reason, it is called a flood of water, not simply a flood as it is in verse 17 below. Water mainly symbolizes our spiritual possessions, the intellectual elements of faith, and the opposites of these, which are falsities. The word contains many passages that support this meaning. The symbolism of a flood of water as times of trial can be seen from the evidence offered in the preface to this chapter. It can also be seen in Ezekiel. This is what the Lord Jehovah has said. I will make a stormy wind break out in my wrath, and in my anger a flooding downpour will take place, and hailstones in my rage until their full end, so that I destroy the wall that you coated with your foolish plaster. The stormy wind and flooding downpour stands for the ruination that falsity causes. The wall coated with foolish plaster stands for a fiction that seems to be truth in Isaiah. Coated.
Hello. Hello, people.
Coated.
It's like covered. What do you say? What do you say?
Hello.
Ah, hello.
Hello, what's up?
I'm reading the book. You can see this book on the stream.
Yeah,
And I learn,
I see. I see this book.
I learn
What,
English.
what about him?
It's about spiritual meaning of the book of Genesis. It's Secrets of Heaven by Manuel Swedenborg. He's a writer. You can see this book.
I see. So read for have it.
Yeah, it's about the mind and the matrix, maybe.
Matrix.
Matrix, like matrix, like where we are right
Like,
now by our minds, because by our
like
minds.
yeah. Like the movie? Matrix?
Yeah, actually, yeah, Matrix movie. Actually, it's about this. I think the Matrix movie is from books of Swedenborg.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe this same book.
Yeah, have you seen that movie, Matrix?
What? Yeah, I watch this movie.
Yeah, that movie has a deep, very deep inner meaning
Yeah,
like
yeah.
inside.
Yeah. Very, very deep. But
Yeah,
it's nice movie. It's very nice.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
fucked. I get fucked. I watch him.
Yeah, and actually, books of Swedenborg are about our thoughts and minds, because we live in we all live within the world of information by our minds. It's like virtual reality, virtual life, like this.
Yeah.
And this book is about how can we understand the book of Genesis of the Bible in this sense. Because Swedenborg wrote only about spiritual things. He didn't write about literal things like earthly things, but he wrote only about spiritual and heavenly things. It's like about the state of mind, about conscience, for example, love, mercy, like this. Jehovah God is a shelter from the flood, a shade from the heat, for the spirit of the violent is like a flood against a wall. Mhm. The flood stands for a challenge to our way of thinking, and it differs
Differs.
differs from a challenge to the intentions of our will, which is called heat. In the same author, indeed, the Lord has someone who is strong and mighty like a flood of hail, a storm of obliteration like a flood of strong overflowing water. This describes different levels of distress. In the same author, when you cross through the water, I will be with you, and when you cross through the rivers, they will not flood over you. When you go through fire, you will not be burned, and flame will not scorch you. The water and rivers stand for falsity and fantasies, the fire and flame for evil and cravings. In David, all the godly will pray to you over this at the time when they find you. So in a flood of many waters, the waters will not reach them. You are a hiding place for me. You will save me from anguish. The flood of water stands for trials. Another word for flood is also applied to them in the same author. Jehovah sits by the flood, and Jehovah sits as monarch forever. These passages and those prefacing the chapter show clearly that a flood of water simply symbolizes times of trial and of devastation, even though described as if part of a story according to the custom of the earliest people. Genesis 7:7. And Noah entered the ark, as did his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, because of the waters of the flood. Noah entered the ark because of the waters of the flood means the while being tasted, he was protected. His sons as before symbolized truth, his wife goodness, and the sons' wives truth united to good. Anyone can see that Noah entered the ark because of the waters of the flood means that he was protected. The tests that we undergo are nothing else than battles between the evil spirits and angels who are present with us. The evil spirits summon up every wrong that we have ever done or even considered from childhood on. So they stir up both what is evil and what is false in us and condemn us for it. Nothing gratifies them more, it is the central pleasure of their lives. But through the angels, the Lord protects us and prevents evil spirits and demons from pushing beyond the farthest limit of our endurance and drawing us. The fact that Noah's son symbolized truth, his wife goodness, and the son's wife's truth united to good came up before Genesis 6:18, where the same words appear. Although this verse speaks of Noah's sons, of his wife, and of his sons' wives, the truth and goodness they symbolize are protective truth and goodness in the people themselves referred to as Noah. Such was the mode in which the earliest people wrote the word, weaving heavenly secrets together to form a story. Genesis 7:8. Maybe someone wants to read from this. Genesis 7:8 and 9. Of the clean animal and of the animal that is not clean, and of the bird and of everything that creeps on the ground, to each entered to Noah in the ark, a male and a female, as God had commanded Noah. It's interesting, like to each. But if you will see, maybe if you will see another translation, Genesis 7:8-9, to each, will it be 7:9? 7, 9. Yeah, 8 and 9. 8 and 9. Clean beasts and of beasts and the not clean, and of fowls and of everything that creeps on the earth. There went in two and two. In this version, they went in two and two to Noah into the ark. 2 and 2. But here it's like to each entered to Noah in the ark, a male and female, as God had commanded Noah. Clean animals that creeps on the ground. Yeah. And here creeps on the earth. Like this. To each entered to Noah in the ark, a male and a female, as God had commanded Noah. As earlier, clean animal symbolizes positive emotions. An animal that is not clean symbolizes cravings. A bird in general symbolizes thoughts, and everything that creeps on the ground symbolizes the sensory level and anything that gives sensual pleasure. To each symbolizes elements that answer to each other. They entered the ark means that they were protected. A male and a female symbolizes truth and goodness, as they have done before. As God had commanded Noah means it happened in this way. The symbolism of a clean animal as positive emotions was stated and shown at verse 2 of this chapter. So there is no need to linger over it. The same holds true for the symbolism of an animal that is not clean as cravings or evil wishes. The general symbolism of a bird as thoughts is established by frequent statements about birds above, indicating that they symbolize intellectual or rational matters. The term there, however, was bird of the heavens. Here it is simply bird. Consequently, in a general way, to symbolizes thoughts. There are, after all, many kinds of birds, both clean and unclean. Verse 14 below divides them into birds, flying things, and winged creatures, the clean ones being thoughts based on truth, the unclean ones thoughts based on falsity. They will be discussed in what? Birds, flying things. Verse 14. Verse 14. The symbolism of everything that creeps on the ground as a sensory level and anything that gives sensual pleasure was also stated and shown above. The earliest people used creeping, crawling animals as a metaphor, and similar for the things, or maybe similar.
Simile.
Simile. And simile for the things that we acquire through our senses and the things that give us sensual pleasure. Therefore, they also called such things by the names of those animals. They did so because those things occupy the lowest plane of existence and seem to creep on our surface, buried from lifting themselves any higher. Anyone can see the symbolism of to each as elements that answer to each other by considering that such things are pairs. They cannot be pairs unless they answer to each other as do truth and goodness, and evil and falsity. All things display something like a marriage or coupling, maybe, how to pronounce it.
Coupling.
Coupling, it's like relation, pairing, coupling with them, like the match of truth with goodness or of evil with falsity, because the intellect is married to the will. To put it another way, ideas in the intellect are married to the intentions of the will. In fact, everything has its partner or mate, without which it could never remain in existence. I already said at verse 7 above, where it concerned Noah and his sons and the wives, that they entered the ark means that they were protected. The symbolism of a male and a female as truth and goodness can be seen from what appeared previously at Genesis 6:19, where male and female are used of birds, but man and wife are used for the animals. The reason also appeared there. The contents of the will marry the contents of the intellect, but the contents of the intellect regarded in themselves do not really marry those of the will. The former relationship is like that of husband and wife, but the latter like that of male and female. And since the present chapter takes up first the challenge to the ideas in their intellect that the people under discussion faced, as noted, the phrase used is a male and a female. It implies combat or a challenge to one's intellectual concerns. The fact that as God had commanded means it happened in this way was shown before at Genesis 6:22 and in this chapter at verse 5. The subject under discussion here is the trials of the people in the new church called Noah. But few of any know what goes on times of trial, because few today experience them. Those who do are wholly convinced that it is something inherent in themselves that causes them to suffer. In consequence, let me offer a brief explanation of the matter here. During such times, it is evil spirits who stir up our falsities and evil, as mentioned. From our memory, they stir up everything we have ever considered or committed since childhood. Evil spirits are able to do this with such consummate. What is this? Consummate. Kill.
Consummate.
Not consummate, but consummate. Consummate. It's like complete, masterly. killed. In this sense, like perfect, killed. Yeah. Consummate skill.
Consummate.
Consummate. Maybe consummate. Skill and malice that words cannot describe it. The angels who accompany us, though bring out the goodness and truth that we have and use it to defend us. The conflict between the parties is what we sense and feel, and if causes our conscience to gnaw at this.
Knee.
Actually, it's no. It's like torment, to torment us. I think it's no.
Gnaw.
Yeah, it's no. To gnaw at us and torment us. There are two kinds. There are two kinds of trial. One testing the intellect and the other the will. In struggles involving our intellectual processes, evil spirits stir up only the following: the wrong we have done, symbolized here by the unclean animals, for which they accuse and condemn us; our good deeds, symbolized by the clean animals, which they twist in 1,000 ways; our thoughts, symbolized by the birds, and the things symbolized by the animals creeping on the ground. A struggle of this kind is mild or mild.
Mild.
Mild, like soft. Kind is mild, and we perceive it only as the memory of such things, along with the kind of resulting anxiety. A struggle involving the urges of our will, on the other hand, does not stimulate the memory of our thoughts and deeds in this way. Rather, wicked demons, a name for evil spirits of this type, kindle in us the cravings and vile kinds of love that already permit us. And what is vile?
Vile.
Like horrible, low, disgusting, vile kinds of love that already permit. Just permit.
Permeate.
Permeate. Penetrate. Impregnate.
Impregnate.
Permeate. That already permeate us, and so they attack us with our longings. This they manage us malevolently. What is this? Malevolently?
Malevolently.
It's about malice. Maliciously.
Maliciously.
Maliciously. Malevolent, it's about malice and maliciously. Maliciously. And cowardly.
Covertly.
Like secretly. Cowardly. That no one could ever believe it was their doing. It takes them only a moment to infiltrate the vital energy that lies behind our longings. In almost no time, they change and redirect our desire for goodness and truth into a desire for evil and falsity. We end up totally unaware that this event did not happen on its own, that it did not unfold spontaneously. This kind of trial is very severe, and we perceive it as an excruciating. What is this? Excruciating.
Excruciating.
It's like grievous torment, excruciating. An excruciating burning pain inside. It will be discussed below. The truth of all this I was privileged to see and recognize from repeated experience. I also learned when it was that evil spirits and demons poured and flooded in, where they came from, who they were, and what their methods were. These experiences too will later be described individually, but the Lord's divine mercy. Maybe someone wants to read next verse, Genesis 7:10. Genesis 7:10. And it happened in 7 days that the waters of the flood came on the earth. And it happened in 7 days that the waters of the flood came on earth. 7:10. 7:10. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. Came on the earth. We can say came on the earth, and we can say were on the earth. It's like the same thing. As before, these words symbolize the start of their trials. This is the symbolism of 7 days as the start of their trials was demonstrated above at verse 4. The words also suggest the same ideas discussed above, that this struggle involving the thoughts in their intellect was the start of their trials, or the first struggle, and the expression provides a conclusion to the passage. Because this first trial involved the contents of the intellect, the words waters of the flood are used to describe it, as they were before at verse 7, and as a flood of water was in verse 6. In the strict sense, the term symbolizes just such a trial which was shown there. I think this reading is over.